Good afternoon, everybody. Keith here. I wanted to talk to everybody today about. And see, today's courts go on presumptions. And the presumptions ride in the current contracts, which everybody knows as codes, rules, regulations, statutes, acts, edicts, proclamations, ordinances, declarations, blah, blah, blah. And until somebody or until the process becomes one based in truth rather than on a presumption of somebody's facts pertaining to themselves, I'm not going to commit to commerce. Everything you sign commits to a contract with words that you obviously don't understand, because that's where presumptions come in. And until we get down to the basics of being able to go through all these contracts, whether it be a loan contract at a bank, and go through them word by word and clarify each and every word, then we're not going to get too far. And it comes down to this, and I'll start out with the top thing, which is your trademark. Okay? Everything in commerce is based on a trademark. Okay? And remember that word trade. Everything based in commerce is first fundamentally founded in trade, exchange. And through that commercial system, they've implemented different terms that most people think of as words. And this is why I talk about having to clarify everything. Because some things that you believe are words are actually terms, which have conditions, which are defined in specific ways or with specific wording. Okay? And when I say trademark, as starting at the top level, what I want everybody to understand, and I've spoken on this many times in regards to hierarchies. And in the hierarchy of language, we have a trademark that sits up here. But every single trademark, every single condition, every single sale, every single purchase, every single paragraph, every single sentence, every single concept, every single idea, every single word, every single letter comes down to a mark. Okay? Very simple concept in understanding that when somebody is not literate enough to read and write themselves, they are allowed to make a mark. And that is a trademark. First you have lettermark. For those that are literate of languages, you have a lettermark, and you have to make sure every lettermark is constructed correctly. In other words, the English capital letters are only to be used grammatically in a very specific construction. So each letter mark has to be stricken on the paper correctly. And then the next letter mark and the next letter mark, they each have to be constructed correctly together to form a word mark. And then you have your copyrights and all of that. And I suggest everybody learn this stuff, because this is the root of the problem in itself. Is the language that we are using is not correct. That's why I write my quote name in a specific grammatical manner. I don't have a name. I have a calling. And it is simply Keith. The spirit was called Keith first. The spirit of free will. As man, which is my body, and it has a calling of Orland. Therefore I have Keith Orland. And done grammatically correct, each letter mark is done in lowercase. Lowercase e. And then the next, or lowercase k, and then the next letter mark is lowercase e. The next letter mark is lowercase I. The next letter mark is lowercase t. The next letter mark is lowercase h. And that is the single calling of my spirit. When you call that phonetically, Keith, you are calling the spirit of my Creator. If you wish to do so, then my intent is that of free will. And based on your intent, I will respond. I am able to respond appropriately. This is called responsibility. Now, if you were to attach the body with that, you would use a hyphen after the lowercase h, and then add the lowercase spelling of the second calling, the bodily calling, and then a full stop, colon, full colon, means that is the end of that entity, and we are now going to start with a separate entity, which this living entity is included into, and that is the family, that which is familiar, familiar. I am familiar with those that are where I come from, of whom I come from. I am familiar with my creation. And this fictional world of commerce, based on a trademark, is based in presumptions of so many varying facts that you cannot possibly start out with truth first if somebody else is presuming something based on their intent. That's why I say I won't perform commerce until the system itself is corrected so that I can appropriately present my truth without it being forbeared by somebody else's presumption, simply because they have a larger congregation, a larger jurisdictional territorial area, a larger jurisdictional body. And I've spoken of this before too, the Calvo doctrine, C-A-L-V-O doctrine. I suggest you look that up and maybe read that and and hopefully it'll give yourself a sense of where the true sovereign powers lie and why it is that way. The Calvo doctrine explains how one small jurisdictional body has just as much sovereign power as a larger physical political jurisdictional body. They rank in equality through being fair and impartial. Everything in these courts is supposed to be based on equity, and that means fair must be truthful, not presumption. So until these courts, or until the body of people that we involve ourselves with in this commercial secular society come together as a whole and rebut presumptions with truth, so that truth is finally first and foremost, will I enter commerce again? The Social Security Act, until that is repealed, completely abolished, under its fraudulent basis of operating, and anybody who signs up, even if you're a minor child, even if you're a man or a woman under the age of majority, say even 12, 13, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, whenever somebody gets a Social Security card in that name and they transliterate the proper calling to a fictional person, that in and of itself is fraud. Then they turn around, and not only that, but they give a classification of a Medicare qualified government employee. Now, if you're only 6 years old and your mom and dad go out and get a Social Security account set up for you, they have already classified yourself as a Medicare qualified government employee. Period. Plain and simple. And they will try to rebut that, but all you have to do is go to the Social Security Administration. You do not have to be disabled to apply. You can go in there and give them any kind of inane bullshit, and the one that likely works best is that you're stressed and having anxiety attacks and need mental relief. So file on a basis of mental relief, just to get the application filed so that they can give you a report. And in that report, they have to disclose the status of the person applying for the disability. And when they do that, you ask them, well, what does that MQGE stand for? Because once you've got it written down on a piece of paper, they can't deny that there's such a classification. I tell people this all the time, and they want to go in and ask them about it, and they blatantly deny it. That's fine and dandy. They can blatantly deny it all they want in verbiage, but when they put it down in writing and give you a report that has MQGE on there, and then you ask them what that stands for, they have to be truthful. Otherwise, that is clear intent of non-disclosure and thereby fraud. Period. So until this kind of stuff gets repealed and we can actually move forward in truth, first and foremost, I won't deal with commerce. In the meantime, I'm doing all this research, and it is a viable concept to be able to perform commerce, because it's actually a necessity. When we have all these different jurisdictions that we have to cross, we have to have some way of finding an equal value. Something that's not offset, that needs to be set off, but something that is already first and foremost of equal value. Period. And that's what commerce was initially intended for. However, today's construct has it totally obliterated and hypothecated for these for the elite who have taken advantage of a banking system through abrogation of people's rights. Got my brother Andy Southsmith ready to come on. I always have good conversations with him. Hopefully it'll accept, and he'll be popping up here shortly. But yes, equal exchange for performance. And when it's one of the things I just did a post on the federal acquisition regulations here, and you'll see in part 52 it clearly states that for the implementation of any statute, there must be contract terms and conditions. There must be contractual terms and conditions for all statutes. Period. And until those presumptions of contracting are rebutted with truth first and foremost, by declaring that no living man, without knowingly, willingly, and intentionally operating in commerce with the use of a transmitting utility known as a person, has done so with intent of doing so, then it's all corruption. Period. Let me see here. Try again, Andy. I said approve. Add. Says adding. Says no answer from live video guest. Let me cancel it and I'll send you a request. Okay, Andy, I just sent you an invite. We'll see if this works. But anyway, like I said, Everything today in commerce operates on a presumption. Until it starts operating on truth first and foremost, I don't want anything to do with it. But there are ways, and I got into a discussion with a guy this morning, coming on to one of my posts, and bless him, I love him, he's a great guy, he does a great job. But to come on and profess that information that I put out is not valid is wrong. There are, in this system of corruption, the thing we have to remember is that the presumptions can be rebutted in many different ways. Many different ways. And this means that there are many different paths. And I know many people doing many different paths. I know people that are doing the SPC. I know people that are doing just a DBA and defeating them with just a simple DBA. I know people that are authenticating the birth certificate, state and federal, and taking over that public charitable trust person known as the United States citizen and state citizen. And it's a viable way to do it. But there's also an option of doing of creating your own person. You can authenticate that birth certificate, both state and federal level, and then collapse that trust. And in technicality, I believe that is actually what you're supposed to do, is to collapse that trust so that these foreign bar agents cannot take advantage of it any longer against the United States. And so in the meantime, you can collapse that one and create your own artificial corporate person. And I spoke on this before as well. We hear the old adage, don't keep all your baskets or all your eggs in one basket. And to me, this means that we should be creating more than one person. And the way I believe we can work it the best to our advantage is if we look at the trust that the county, the state, and then the federal government created a trust among themselves, creating the county person, the state person, and the United States person, calling it a dual citizenship without even bringing in that third citizen, which is the original, genuine hypothecation of one's inheritance, which is the county registrar in contract with the doctor from the hospital or his agent, who handed over the hospital statement of live birth and then certified it, making that document an instrument. A document is a legal device that can then be turned into a financial instrument, and that's what the commerce is all about. Changing documents into instruments, making your words worth value, backing your words up with some kind of value. And today they call it equity, and it's not even equitable. It's not fair and impartial to make someone responsible or liable through a third person party that they had nothing to do with. And then along with that, remember, there's maxims of law that say you can only control that which you create, and you cannot control that which you did not create. So all the people out there that are authenticating this birth certificate and then taking control of that person, the only thing you're actually controlling is the operation and the ability to access that person. Period. That's all you control. Because again, that person was created under the statute, codes, rules, and regulations of this country, and then instituted amongst the people. So they are the ones that actually created that document and the process. And so what we have to do is rebut that and create our own in order to have that full, total control. Otherwise, they can simply show their control by having all these people out there with all that are owning or controlling that one person. And that's the only egg they have. And then all of a sudden they change that law. and that person is no good. And then all those people that are operating in commerce under that one person are screwed. So yeah, Timothy Emmett Damron, your process may work, and I agree, it does work, and it works hella results. But at the same time, I'd also like to discuss this commerce and equity and how it uses securities, futures trading market, based on fractional banking, Tontine principles, and inflation and interest rates, based on future markets that take advantage of those that are less fortunate today, and thereby enabling the fraud. So again, I agree, your system does work. But in my own opinion, I believe it only works in help building cognitive dissonance amongst those who would not be prepared if all of a sudden the laws changed and they only had that one person operating in commerce. So I suggest people understand this. I may not be the all-know-it-all of everything, but I do have some common sense in that the maxims of law in that you can only control that which you create, and you cannot control that which you did not create. Two of the most important maxims we have. If you're taking control of that United States citizen and state citizen dual citizenship person, and then not backing it up with your own person or persons, who are thereby establishing a trust themselves under private membership association according to the International Labor Union laws, International Trade and Commerce laws. You are at a disadvantage if they all of a sudden change those laws. Whereas if you have several persons, you have an advantage that if they repeal those laws, there may only be that one United States or state citizen, dual citizen, that is affected by that. So I suggest people learn how to operate persons, as in plural, persons, more eggs in, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Have several baskets with several eggs in all baskets. And this is why I say it's very important to learn the languages in your letter marks, word marks, sentence marks, trademarks, all of that. It's conveying your own intent. And my intent is truth. And so when I get ready to develop any kind of a trust, it's going to be with me, myself, and I. And me is going to be one person, myself is going to be another person, and I is going to be a third person. And one is going to be the truster, one is going to be the trustee, and one is going to be the beneficiary. Period. Under that, there is going to be a foreign situs trust with myself as a living man, as the beneficiary. Beneficiary use of all the property held by those other entities. And I believe that's the secret. We've heard that old adage for many years. Don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Makes sense. Yes, etymology is key, and I think a lot of people don't understand. Etymology isn't just looking back. Understand, people. Man existed long before the Latin language existed. Okay? So when we think about etymology here in America, most people look up the etymological origins of the words that we use according to the letter marks. Okay? Instead of looking up the actual origin of the words that were spoken through symbolic languages, I guarantee you, I can walk into a court using this mind and write in a symbolic language and go forth with an interpreter to help interpret my symbols, which are based on my intent, that will rebut any presumption that any state, corporate, artificial person, or any commercial act can put out. Because I've never once signed my name knowingly, willingly, and intentionally believing that I was giving up rights that allowed another man to have control over my body. Period. Even when I go out and get a job, I know better because I can quit anytime I wish. This is the unlimited power of contract, and it's all based on intent. My intent is to go forth in truth and be equitable, fair, and impartial in all matters. Period. So anyway, I hope everybody understands this simple concept. We need to get down to the basis of what's right for us in terms to our intent. And if you're going forth in this commercial world, I suggest you understand your signature is a foreign language. Never once did we start out with the English alphabet in cursive first. It came first in lowercase lettering. First, it came in lowercase lettering. So anyway, think about this and start doing your studying, people. It's not about where the Social Security Act started. It's not about where the Sedicate Trust Act started. It's not about where the indoctrination started. It's about where you started. It's where yourself started. Did it start in the physical form, or did it start in a spiritual form of intent, of free will? Period. Anyway, I wouldn't be doing this if it weren't for you guys. God bless you. Love you. Hope you have a great day. Hope you understood this one. It's very important. We need to get back down to truth. We need to get back down to the truth being prior to presumption. Anybody can presume anything they want, but if they presume it based on illogical and irrational facts, knowing that they are under contract first, and that they have a contract with this person and not the living man, and then they're the ones committing fraud. Period. Anyway, have a good day, folks. Bye.